Welcome to Immortal Wisdom with Leon Denis. I'm Vanessa Anceloni, and this is actually video 9 of a 15 video series. Very short videos, 10-minute average, talking about 15 chapters that he wrote in the book After Death, which was recently published by the United States Spiritist Council. You can acquire at spiritist.us. This book is phenomenal, and these 15 chapters talk about the straight and narrow pathway, true guideposts for our everyday moments. This chapter is titled Resignation in Adversity. It's very interesting because the word resignation means we are going to surrender to the fact that we cannot change anything. All we have to do is to be patient and trust. That's the meaning of it. Leon Denis begins this chapter telling us that in our world, the earth, suffering is just a law. He says the very words, suffering is a rule of the world. And it is. So is crying a problem? Not at all. If God made the tear glands, we shall use it wisely to relieve our souls, our hearts. Crying is not a problem. The problem is being stuck in complaining, in nagging. And that's why Leon Denis is saying, let's learn what it is to be resigned. And he says more. He says, in every age and under every climate, the humans have suffered and the humans have cried. And he says quite clearly that there is a difference in regards to the conception of misfortune. Many people think, as he says, that misfortune is when we lose loved ones, hardships, misery. And he says, you know what? Deeply, misfortune is what? Love of pleasure, pride, and a useless and vicious life. This is the true misfortune. If we are in any way and means engaged in love of pleasure, many people think that it's wonderful to indulge in eating, that it's wonderful to indulge in selfishness. And here Leon Denis says that love of pleasure in general is not gonna get us anywhere. It's a misfortune. That's true sadness in life. And he says, actually, pain is very beneficial. But let's recall, I'm a neuroscientist of pain. And as a neuroscientist of pain, we understand that pain is subjective. It's dependent on one's perception. What does that mean? It means that I can manage my perception towards a stimulus and conclude whether it's suffering or not, it's painful or not. So I can change my perception of things and suffer less, suffer much less. For example, there was a Spiritist man named Jerônimo Mendonça in Brazil. He used to be on a bed and travel all around Brazil giving Spiritist talks. He used to say that there were people who came to him and said, oh, I suffer so much from migraines. And he was laying down on a bed and he could only speak. He couldn't move his body at all. So it's interesting because perception changes the way we feel about things. So we can practice a different way of seeing and Leon Denis is helping us here. He's saying, pain is the supreme remedy for the imperfections and the disabilities of the soul. There are many people who are perfect in the body, but the souls are truly impaired in many ways. And there is no possible recovery for the soul without pain. So it's pain has a role. And André Luiz, in a message in a book that is yet to come in English named Opinião Espírita, Spiritist Opinion, he says that that's actually a way we can measure how we have evolved. He says, the day we understand more the role of pain. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And he says more. Whenever we are overwhelmed by grief, humiliation, and ruin, may we bear them with patience. Adversity is a great school, a fertile soil for transformations. How beautiful it is. Adversity is a great school. I'm not saying, oh, let's evoke adversity. No, no. Let's celebrate adversity. No, no. But let's understand it. Then we're going to be happier. Let's understand it. The question is, why am I going through this? What does God want me to learn through this? Instead of being a rebellious student, oh, I hate exams, I hate tests. The wise student is going to say, or the good student, you don't need to be wise, just a good student is going to say, well, let me do my best and it's going to pass. Focus, learn the lesson, answer to the test questions, next one. That's all that is. Exactly as we're saying. Let's ask, what does God want me to do with this situation? It's painful, but can I change the way I'm seeing it? That's a good question for us. And he's recommending patience, but he says in our blindness, we curse our obscure, monotonous, painful existences. However, when we raise our eyes above the limited horizons of the earth, when we manage to distinguish the true purpose of life, then we understand that these lives are precious, indispensable to tame our proud spirits and to subject us to the moral discipline outside of which there can be no progress. Beautiful. It is in the crucible of pain that the great souls are shaped. Sometimes angels of goodness come to empty the cup of bitterness right in front of our eyes in order to set an example for all who are driven by the turmoil of passions. And this is Jesus Christ. Many people still think like the ancient Romans or the ancient Hebrews who didn't understand Jesus' message and example in the passion. He came to give us an example. He wasn't acting like an actor. He was going through what life is all about. On the earth, we still have to work a lot to evolve. And pain happens to be a school for us. We're not saying we want to encounter pain voluntarily, but when it comes, if we are experiencing, what is it for? Let's meditate. And he says, patience. Patience is something that we only get, as in a previous video, in his own book, we have already recorded. Patience is something that we get at higher levels as we practice it. It's like going to the gym. So he gives us a message to everyone who is suffering. He says, let me read this excerpt because his words are impossible to substitute. All of you who are ignored and suffer cruel pains without being noticed, and you who are despised for your ignorance and your limited faculties, cheer up. Be sure that there are great spirits among you who have chosen to be reborn ignorant in order to humble themselves. And he says, one should never despise anybody. Concealed in the flesh, some great spirits come to expiate a formidable past under humble and mediocre appearances, and even as idiot and mad individuals. Dear friend, our mentor Joseph always says, Vanessa, do not judge. Look at people who are suffering and do not think in this very simplistic way. Oh, these people are suffering because they did something really bad. No. Leon Denis is saying there is great wisdom in God's hands when He asks good spirits to come and go through lives that seem to be terrible. But there's an example for us. Let's not judge. It's not linear. You did something wrong, next life it's going to happen that. Well, not necessarily. We have a lot more to understand, but we cannot judge others. And at the very end of the chapter, he talks about something that is very important.